Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's pick a card reading is very special because it's connected to a new deck that I received having backed it on Kickstarter. A really beautiful and very different tarot deck called the Ego Observer Tarot deck, and you can see three major arcana cards from it there, which will help with the pile choice. This deck's really interesting. It is the traditional tarot, but it's reimagined through the lens of how those energies operate very archetypally within us. And as the name of the tarot deck would suggest, Ego Observer, in a tool for real self-awareness, to be able to observe our ego, our interaction with our spiritual self, our egoic self, our 3D self, all of those things, so that we make very self-aware choices. And so therefore, the different cards have particular energies that are being evoked that are very unique to this deck, and are ones that are looked through that frame. So I think that makes it a perfect deck for looking at you in the future and your best possible timeline. So we're asking here for your higher self or your future self to be talking to you about who you are or who you will become in the best possible timeline, and the energies or whatever to work on or be aware of to bring you to that outcome and so forth. So it's going to be very much an exploration of you, but kind of more an exploration of the you that you're becoming and how you become it than anything else. So to help with the choice, I shuffled and asked Spirit for the first three major arcana cards that came out. As they came out, they would be pile 1, 2, and 3. What I want to sort of show you here is that you can see, if I bring it up very closely, you can see the world written there. But this is a beautiful deck, but it's a little bit hard to read on camera. Even in real life, it's a little bit hard to read the naming of the cards, and that's true across the deck. So I will read out the cards, but the thing to recognize about here is that was probably done artistically quite deliberately, because it is taking the archetypes into a different realm. So therefore, when we're looking at pile 1, we have the world, but it's talking about the subconscious. So this, I think, is particularly talking about the world within. Now, what I asked with these major arcana cards is that they are part of the energy or focus of the future you. So to help you choose which one, and kind of what do you feel drawn to that you're going towards. So this, to me, and I'll talk more about it in the reading, suggests a very inner journey around completion and new beginnings and your connectivity to others, and maybe also the collective unconscious. But I will talk more about it when we get to the actual reading itself. But the world. But if the world is an archetype that you feel very drawn to as well, it's probably yourself drawing towards your future self. Pile 2 is the death card. Here is change. And that's a good word for death, because the death card is choice and change and transition. It's not death. So if something about change, transformation, or the process of transformation is something that you're very drawn to, this could be the pile for you. And then the third pile is the Hanged Man with perspective. And that's, again, a very kind of classical way of looking at one of the key aspects of the Hanged Man, which is what is the perspective? How are we looking at things? Having more than one perspective, being flexible, and all of those sort of things, as you can sort of see with that card, the way that it's portrayed. So by all means, go to more than one, because it might be some amalgamation of two energies together that is the future you in your best possible timeline. But whatever works for you, when you know what pile or piles you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So as I said in the introduction, first thing I want to do is explore why it is that you might have been drawn to this pile, and in particular this sort of image or this particular archetype, why your future self, your higher self and future self, probably in tandem, said this is the pile to come to. And as I said, the thing that I find very interesting about this world card is it talks about the subconscious, and you can see beneath the kind of like the blue of almost the sea, the person is connecting up to the world. So I feel like in this deck and for this reading, this is very much about a future self where you are connected to a very strong collective. This could be around finding your soul tribe. It could be around having a purpose that has a worldwide sort of implication, even if you aren't necessarily on the world stage, though some of you may be. This could be about a very expanding consciousness which connects you into the collective unconscious. I'm getting for some of you this is a highly creative thing, because I think that those who are highly creative, those who write, who paint, and I mean in that kind of creativity, there is a kind of a channeling aspect that associates with that, and a connection to the kind of archetypes and images and so forth in the collective unconscious. And it'll be interesting. There's a point in this reading where we're going to use a couple of decks that really get to that through almost the dream world, about some of the nature of you in the dream world. So you're very much connected to all of that, but connected to others. Your future self could be very much a influencer on others, either spiritually or more seen in the world, or someone who is about connectivity. And also I think about endings and beginnings, because the world is about that. It's about knowing when things are of their time and when to change. Some of you may be drawn to pile 2 as well for that reason with the death card. That's up to you. You don't have to go there. But there's something in that essence for you. Your future self is very, very connected and very connected between your sort of collective unconscious, subconscious, all of that kind of thing, and your material being. You have a really strong alignment and a really strong understanding of that. So we're going to just shuffle firstly with the tarot, and we're going to ask for 3 cards just to complete a kind of overview picture before we sort of like interrogate this more through the tarot. So we're going to ask about the energy where you are now, the energy of the future, a little bit more about this, and then the transitional energy, just to give us a little bit more of a roadmap of what we're dealing with. So where you are now, 6 of Wands, validation, okay. Where you are heading to, what connects with this incredible connectivity with others spiritually, in terms of communication, in terms of emotion. And for some of you, you might work a lot around therapies, healing and so forth as well, helping people deal with those sort of issues. Where you're heading to, oh, healing, 6 of Swords. No wonder that just came into my head when I was saying I think you could be doing that when I'm shuffling for the future. So for many of you, this connectivity will be deeply healing to others or to yourself, or a bit of both probably. That's usually the case. What's the transitional energy that your future self sees that's necessary to get to this future you? 9 of Coins, success. Okay, so right now, what is setting you up for this is that there is an energy of being sort of celebrated, a victory, being recognized. So this is saying that there's something already that you're recognized for, whether it's just that you recognize it within yourself and you're validating yourself, or whether others have. And it's probably more the latter, in that there's a sort of sense here of kind of accumulating sort of the gold of the world, or the gold of your soul and all that kind of thing. There's a validation. I do feel, though, the interesting thing about this is that I feel in the context of this reading, this is your future self and this is you. So I think it's saying you've had successes already, but you have no idea. Like the you that you are developing into is much bigger. It's on a much bigger stage. It's got a much bigger reach in some way. If any of you are wanting to do sort of like spiritual work or anything really, political work, cultural work, creative work on the world stage, then your reach is going to be much more than you expect. And I suspect, since the success is the 9 of Coins, the person who is the self-actualized person financially, you're going to do very well with something. It's going to literally give you the money or the resources that are necessary to go towards this thing and have this reach. But the reason it's happening, what your future self is saying, is that there is something deeply healing, something about peace. And I do feel for some of you, it just depends how this plays out. You could literally be a healer. So you could have just graduated with something and you're ready to do some sort of healing profession, and you'll do very well with it, but you have no idea how big it's going to get. Or it's a spiritual thing. You've just achieved, you've just become a Reiki master or something like that. Again, you'll do very well with it, but you have no idea how big it's going to get. So there could definitely be those sort of things, and the healing here is really in that space. But I also feel for some of you, this is like there's, in this transition, as you start to become, it's almost like as you start to become more comfortable financially and within yourself, and you start to be recognized, your reach expands to wanting to heal or do something more in the world. I kind of get a sort of, like often what happens with really successful people is they reach a point where they go from being an entrepreneur to being a philanthropist. There's almost that sort of feeling about it for you. I just think that this is, the future you is striding like a colossus on the world stage, but it's because what you bring is, you could bring peace. Like you could literally with this be so interconnected with people that you become an incredible peacemaker in some way, because the Six of Swords is also about peace. But whatever it is, your capacity to do this is massively expanding if you move towards this time frame or timeline, and you believe in yourself, because others believe in you, and that can bring you the success that's necessary. So wow, straight out of the gate we've got something really exciting operating. So let's get a little bit more information. So I want to know what your future self thinks of you right now. And this is this may be, here are the things that you need to shift or work on. It might be, here's the things that they want to congratulate you with. Whatever it is, they have a huge respect for where you're going and what you could do and what you could be. So, don't worry if there's some critique. It's all to refine you and take you to the greatest reach that you can have. We're then going to see what does your future self want you to explore, what challenges or blocks might occur, and then like the two greatest pieces of advice your future self has for you. So firstly, a little bit more about with this validation, where you are now, how does your future self see the current you? We have the King of Swords reversed. We have the Ace of Cups reversed. Okay. We have the Two of Cups reversed. Okay, all right. And we have the Ten of Cups reversed. Okay. Your future self is saying you may think, I can't even see myself doing this. Particularly in your own ego and your own thinking, you might think, I don't know. I mean, like, yes, I'm good at what I did, or I just graduated, or I understand something, or whatever it is. But your future self is saying you haven't understood this yet. That's what I'm saying. You have no idea who you really are. So your future self says all of these things are kind of like, they're in the subconscious, actually. That's interesting. Maybe you get it in dreams. Maybe you see it in dreams or in meditations or whatever. And you might actually almost be kind of resisting it at the moment because you feel like maybe it's hubristic, it's a little bit egotistical. But the ego, when it's operating to its highest good, will steer you in the right way. And this is what your future self is trying to do. So it's saying that there is a kind of these are things that you need to work on to get there. I think this is what it's saying. So firstly, King of Swords is represented here as maturity of thought. So again, there's a growth phase here. This is not to say that you're immature, but it is saying that it's almost like you have a deeply embedded philosophy that is going to be the thing. And I think really too, I'm not enough of an expert about where that is in the brain, but I also think possibly there's a connection to your pineal gland as well too, spiritually, with connecting to the collective unconscious. But there is sort of some work to do on what is your belief structure. It's going to be very important. It's almost the first thing to do. The Ace of Cups reverse connection is don't try and reach out with all of this until you have worked that out. It's like I think this is actually a process. So working out your philosophy, what you believe, then the connection, and it may be one particular person that is a very clear connection with. So for some of you, your understanding of how you connect with the collective unconscious and so forth might be through a love connection. Doesn't have to be, but there is almost a singular connection, like work that out with that and create with the Two of Cups, whether it's as a romance or whether it's as just a real deep connection, a unity, because at the moment it's almost, I think it's also suggesting that there is somebody who, when combined with you, is really going to help bring this out. So whether it's sort of because the two of you together, what you can do telepathically in terms of influence is greater, or whether it's they're the person who once you really know who you are, who's going to fully recognize you. And I suspect you might know who this person is already, but if not, they're coming in fairly soon. What it's leading you to then is a sense of belonging. There is something here. You don't feel at the moment like you've found your spirit team. And I think, well, not your spirit team, your soul family. And I think that your future self is saying that's right. But it'll start with one person. And you just need to know really what you believe, because that's going to be the key thing that creates the connection to start with. And then from there, you will find who you, like this journey for you is about finding, your soul family, and you haven't done that yet. But when you do, wow, wow. So, okay. So what potential in particular does your your future self want you to explore right now, beyond what is your belief structure and who might this connection be, I think. 10 of Coins, security. Queen of Swords reversed, be clear. Okay. Queen of Coins, upright, prosperity. All right, so there's a couple of things. Firstly, I think it is confirming that for most of you, I suspect for most of you, your birth family are not necessarily your soul family. Now, it's not going to be for everybody. It could be working out who in your birth family does give you that sense of security and a capacity to explore who you are. If that's the case, then go with that. But I think with the 10 of Coins upright and then with the Queen of Swords reversed and it's saying be clear, so there's a lack of clarity. Queen of Swords reversed to me is often self-critique or critique that's unfair. So I think that one of the things where you may not realise how much you can do is that you maybe from the people that you've been close to in one form or another or worked with or whatever it is have not seen your potential. So your higher self or your future self wants you to start to understand that's a dynamic that's not valid. And that the Queen of Coins is prosperity and then we have the 9 of Coins. It's like if people have told you can't do something, you can't make money, or that's not realistic or whatever it is, what your future self wants you to know is it is actually possible, that you can do it, and to stay committed to what matters to you on that level, because it's like, remember that it's that creating the wealth in some way, and you don't have to be, like a billionaire or whatever, but creating that financial stability is the thing that really allows you to reach out and do your work. But I think you've been given some sort of programming that you're not able to do it. And so I think your future self is saying, that's just not true. Let go of the self-critique and allow yourself to connect where you belong emotionally. So what blocks might occur? Okay, Knight of Coins, take a risk. That's an interesting thing. Ace of Swords reversed, intelligence reversed, and 4 of Coins, scarcity. All right. So the blocks are a kind of a sense of, can I reach beyond? Is there a risk in reaching beyond? And it's interesting, Knight of Coins for take a risk. It's almost like it's equating the Knight of Coins in this deck to the Fool. But the Knight of Coins is dedicated and takes the time. And see how she's reaching for her North Star there? I think that this is saying that the blocks are around, this is why it's saying what you believe is important. Because it's saying to me with the Ace of Swords reversed is that your different way of thinking is not the way that has been kind of programmed into you by family or the workplace that you're in or education or whatever. There's almost an unlearning situation here where you move out of a kind of a scarcity or I've got to hold on to everything into a growth mindset because you can do it. And in fact, that's going to be the key that allows you to do everything else. So there could be some blocks in what you believe about your capacity. And I think some of this has come from what other people have told you. So then, what is your future self's greatest hope for you? What is the key message that they want to bring? Just going to get 2 cards for that. Play the Sun. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? And Patience, 7 of Coins. This is going to take a bit of time. It's why we have such a Pentacles energy here. You are going to do something in the material world. It is going to do very, very well. You are going to have the independence both of thought and of like money to be able to do what you need to do. But you need to unlearn certain things and just have a bit of fun with it. So it's fine to be mature and have a clear idea, but also have fun. Like don't lose that sort of sense that anything is possible, because for you anything is possible, but you are going to have patience. I'm sure, like if you're like me and you see the patience card, you think, oh, because I'm not very patient. But this is saying, if you're worried, if you're feeling impatient, just have fun, just explore, because all of this is about connectivity. All of this is bringing you towards your people and how you can heal and help in some way. So that's very beautiful. So let's have a look at the dreamer in you. As I said, like we're going to look at various aspects of you also that your higher self wants to talk about. So what we're looking at in the first 2 are kind of who you are and the energy around you right now to be paying attention to. So in terms of the dreamer in you, I have 2 decks that look at lucid dreaming, and so they have symbols and energy. One is around kind of the elements, and one is around almost the material world and so forth, and personality aspects. So we're just going to look at each of those and get a couple of cards from each. So I would take these as a little bit more about who you are, but also potentially synchronicities, because I think often dreams will give us synchronicities. And for you in particular, in the subconscious, you're very powerful in the dream world. So I think it's worth really paying attention to this. So firstly, around the sort of natural and elements energy, we get moth, nocturnal, psychic, yeah, very psychic, very connected, passion, solitude, transformation. So I think at the moment there's a solitude. I do think you're meant to connect. I think it's like what your passion takes you out of the solitude into transformation. But a moth could be an indication to you of the transformation that you're going through. Could be something that turns up in dreams. But you are that sort of person. You are a very psychic person. A lot of this is about psychic ability. And vegetables, good deeds, success, yeah, nourishment, growth. This is the energy that is about the material. You're meant to do something material, something very positive material, and with, you know, nourishment, growth, detoxing, healing energy. So again, you may, you know, dream about vegetables, eating vegetables, or, you know, particular vegetables might strike you when you're walking past a fruit and vegetable shop or whatever, and it kind of really connects you to that energy of what is growthful. So think about, you know, if you see a moth or you see vegetables and it kind of really captures your attention, think about what they mean to you and about these sort of things and what could be coming up from your subconscious, and certainly pay attention to any dream messages in that space. And then when we look more at the kind of material world, not that, I mean, the natural world is material, but the kind of man-made world, I guess, is, and personality aspects, we get blood, feeling, passion, vitality, strength, wounds, danger. I don't think there's a lot of danger in this beyond that you need to unlearn things, but there may be something about, is your bloodline your soul tribe? Now, they might be. If that's the case, go with that and connect to that. But if not, it may be that the bloodline is not the thing, that you need to find the spiritual bloodline. If you dream about blood, if you sort of see blood, if you read about blood, all of these things could maybe, again, be signs to you that what you're thinking about or focusing on at that time is important to creating the future you. And, okay, betrayal. All right, so there is a possibility here, and this might be why you've got to clear what you believe and connect to the right people, that some of you, this is probably for some of you, there literally is something where people have gaslit you, told you were lesser or whatever. Being aware of that, bringing that to the surface and understanding that will help. If you dream about betrayal, particularly if there's a connection on bloodlines or things like that, it might be about separating you out from energy that you're not meant to be in. Because if you're connecting that much, you need to be discriminating in who you connect with in a positive way. So that energy is there. But it is suggesting that for some of you, there's been a force, whether it's a conscious thought force on anybody's sort of day-to-day level, or whether it's almost a soul level force of competition holding you down. So if you have that feeling or that sense, go with it. You're likely to be right, and kind of explore what is different about you and why you shouldn't take that and why you should unlearn what they're talking about. So if that is your dream world thing, and as I say, and synchronicities coming from the dream world into the real world for you, let's also have a look at you right now in terms of the energies that you're actually experiencing in the kind of 3D world. So we're just going to get 3 cards for that from a particular deck. That is a tarot deck, but it kind of operates more like an oracle. Poverty. Okay, I think this is a poverty mindset, though. I mean, you could be having financial difficulties at the moment, but you're not going to in the future. Like, this is definitely to move you out of that. You're going to do very, very well. Disappointment. Okay. Contentment. All right. What this is saying, and this is why this is your future self really trying to nudge you towards your highest timeline. You could almost be content in not achieving things. Like, whatever this energy is, has almost got you to think, well, that's my lot in life. And like your future self saying, no, not at all. You're so psychic, you're so connected, you could have such a healing energy, but you have to change. It's really unlearning. That's why we had the King of Swords reversed. That's why we had the Ace of Swords reversed. It's why we have this energy. It's an unlearning that needs to happen in your material world. Like, I'm not sort of someone who says that, you know, one has poverty just because of a poverty mindset per se. I mean, I think we have to do certain things, bring our skills into being, all of that kind of thing. I don't think there's a problem with you doing that. I think once you focus on it, you'll do it. But I think it's more that you've been told to be content with less, or even spiritually that you know, there's something that's innately unspiritual about having money, for instance, or feeling sort of financially secure. So this is something you need to shift through, because for you to be what you could be, you're going to need some sort of financial backing. It's like your energy, once it really spreads out in whatever way it's going to, you need to not be having to worry about, can I pay the rent next week? So I think this is just a real nudge towards having a different view about what your material circumstances should be, because there's a bigger picture here for you. And somebody's got into your head and made you think you should be settling for less. It's like the tyranny of low expectations has been put on you. Don't have low expectations, pole 1. Okay, we're also going to have a look at now. That is the current you. I want to look at the future you around sort of divine masculine and divine feminine sort of aspects, just to sort of see where, again, you could be heading, or anything that you need to be aware of heading there. So I'm going to ask Spirit here if there's a warning, to put a warning in, and it's more about the transition. But if it's a sort of positive thing, it's sort of more about where you could be. So around the divine masculine, action, ambition sort of energies for you. Charlatan. Okay, I think this is a warning. I don't think this is you. I think there's people around. There's people around, and they try and make out, if you did this, that you're somehow, it's all in your ego. Remember, this is ego observer deck that we've been dealing with here. Like, some people might try and make out you're a pretender, you're a charlatan, you're not all that, whatever it might be, or there are charlatans around you. So there is something in the area of ambition and creativity and action where you've got to deal with some really serious deprogramming operating here. You are meant to be so much more than others have told you. Okay, let's see the yin energy, the divine feminine energy. Heyoka, oppositeness, novel path, unexpected. Yeah, because you're very empathic. That would make sense. The Heyoka empath is meant to be highly empathic and very, very different. So a lot of people kind of like don't know how to deal with it, and that could be part of the energy. There's certainly the healing energy of Heyoka, but this is also that what you're bringing in is different. And so it may even be with some people that they're not really meaning to betray, but they don't get it because you're ahead of the curve. So this is sort of understanding who you are and understanding you are authentic. You're just different. You're not a charlatan. So there's something, I do think that most of you are going to do something pretty significant, and this is why you're getting this pushback energy. So it's just spirit sort of saying, or your future self saying, don't let that dissuade you. Understand what's going on. So let's get you a couple of mythical creatures to give you support and their messages for creating the best version of you in the best future time frame. Firstly, Cerberus, friendship. In life, have a friend that is like a mirror and shadow. Mirror doesn't lie and shadow never leaves. So it's important here, I think, to... Oh, that's interesting. This is saying you've got to transition the people around you. Because look at this, there's 3 heads. Cerberus is a 3-headed dog. Then you've got the 3 over here. There's something about a number of people around, or at least one person, but I'd say a number of people around. It's like finding your true friends is really, really important. Because I think that you've got some people around you who aren't. So that doesn't necessarily mean they mean to be, but they just don't get you. And some might actually be in competition with you. So, but Cerberus is a very very powerful protector. And Mermaid, mercy, the universe is not outside of you. Yeah, the universe is not outside of you. Look inside yourself. Everything that you want, you already are. Yeah, that's the message right from the beginning. This is you in the subconscious. It's all there. You've just got to bring it forward. But you've got to be around the right people. There's definitely something like that. That energy is around you. You need to be aware of it. Let's get you some stars to guide you there for pile 1. Third house. So communication is very important. Yeah, communication, but I think also subconscious communication, telepathic communication. Leo, yeah, and you've got to get out there and show yourself, you know. That goes to the 6 of Wands. You know, there's something that should be seen with you. You're not meant to be kind of hidden away. You're meant to lead out on something. And Sagittarius, have the freedom. You're very fiery energy, actually, very creative. A lot of you, this could be creative in one form or another. Now, to close out the reading, there's two things I'm going to do, and I was actually meaning to mention this in the introduction, but I forgot. The second one of them, the last thing it will do, so I've got a split decisions deck, and I'm going to sort of suggest to you that you either think about a couple of questions to do with heading towards your future self or anything else you want, but I'm just going to shuffle and see whether the answer is yes and no and why. So that'll be the very last bit of it. But before then, I wanted to have a look at both in terms of your vocation and in terms of your relationships, what this future you could be archetypally. So firstly, in terms of your vocation, who you are in the world. Wow, the eco warrior. Well, that's kind of interesting with the world. It could be healing the world in some way. Or eco as in connecting to the world, connecting to nature, all of those sort of things, but having a kind of a purpose. I do think you have a purpose. That's why I think, you know, the Spirit is so keen on you really expanding your reach. Really strong energy. And that also fits with that kind of like fire energy. Okay, and then in terms of relationships, love, that kind of thing, the negotiator celebrates those who can find compromise and agreement in relationships. So in some of these relationships, you may have to negotiate. You might be stuck with certain people in your workplace or otherwise, but you are meant to find the right people. But I do think there's sort of something, as I said, some of you could work in peace in some way with the Six of Swords. You will have that ability. Very clever. And this goes to the third house. Very clever in the way that you speak. All right, so now we're just going to move to the split decisions deck. So this is about yes, no. So what I would suggest is that you may already know from this a couple of yes, no questions. If so, then I'm just going to shuffle and then deal, shuffle and then deal, and you know what they are. So ask them in your mind as I do each. If you're not sure, pause, think up the questions you want, and then come back and do that. So what I'm going to do right now is for pile one, in whatever way you're doing that, I'm shuffling for your first question. And the answer is yes. Walk before you run, fresh outlook, baby steps. So it could be, if it's related to this, saying, you know, just take things one step at a time. You'll head in the right direction, trust yourself, but don't feel you have to rush it. But you could have been asking about something else. Okay, and then again, I'm shuffling. So this is for your second question, pile one. And the answer is yes. This is the real deal. Your efforts bear fruit. So again, if this is a very big yes, you're going to get there. If you're kind of thinking, oh, I can't even see it, there's a very big yes, you're going to get there. But whatever it is, there's a yes. There's a yes answer to both those questions. So I hope that you enjoyed the reading. I hope that it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile two, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Death card, with change. And as I said in the introduction, this could be because your future self is very transformative, helps others with change, changes yourself, is very good at transformation, all of those kind of energies. Also potentially with this card, very psychic, particularly in the kind of scorpionic sort of psychic sort of energy, accessing the Akashic records, understanding that the karmic cycles, all of those things could be associated with what your future self is saying you could be in your best possible timeline. But whatever it is, I think that it does suggest there's quite a shift that's going to occur between where you are now and where you are going to. So what we're firstly going to do is try it with the deck to get a little bit of a helicopter view by looking at where you are now, where you're going to end up a little bit more, and a little bit around the transitional energy before we use the tarot to interrogate it a bit more. Before I do that though, I'm just going to say, because I meant to say this in the introduction, right at the end of this reading, I'm going to give an opportunity for a couple of yes-no questions. Now, they might arise from this when you want to ask some questions about how you get from here to there. That's fine, but you can use them for any type of question that you want. So I just want to let you know, give you that kind of marker in your head that the very last thing we'll do in this reading is that. Okay, so now if we're looking at where you are now in relation to what your future self is saying you could become in your highest possible timeline. Okay, we have the Emperor, masculine. Doesn't mean that you have to be male or identify with male, but your divine masculine energy is probably quite powerful and quite a focus. Where you are going to end up the Magician, ego. Okay, now ego in this deck is not a negative thing. It's a positive thing. It's a true understanding. So there's a lot of power in this. Scorpio power, then masculine, and then the Magician. Wow, okay. So what's the energy that's taking you from one to the other? Okay, Seven of Wands reversed, believe, your own capacity to believe, and believe in yourself, believe in your own power, believe in what you do. So it's a little bit similar to another reading where it was kind of that the person is much more than they think that they are. And I did actually say in that one that some might come to this reading. So if you did come from that reading, then yeah, here's the next chapter of that for you. But this is very much so, you know, as I say, there's the transformative sort of energy. And if you have a look at this, I think it's beautiful the way it's done. It's like the face is being sort of like opened up to allow the true radiance to come through. And almost it feels like from the sacral chakra upwards, there's a sort of like a fiery creative energy. So this is really a kind of a birthing of power. So you start with the Emperor. So many of you, and this may be a way to know if you've come to the right reading, either may have already achieved quite a lot in your life, you know, in terms of your career or your ambitions or something like that. Or you may be very ambitious and outcome and action focused. You may also be very responsible. I think it's a very responsible energy for this, a kind of stewardship energy. So I think that you take your responsibilities very, very seriously. And I think in a weird way, you would, part of the change here is to understand who you are, and you'd almost recoil at the concept of ego here. But it's the Magician. So I think what this is saying is that you are ready to step into your true power. You are ready to step into all the abilities that you have. It's not about your ego. It's about your ego understanding who you are. But you don't at this point, and this is your thing with the Seven of Wands reverse, you don't yet believe that you can do it. You don't believe you can go from wherever you are now to being this fully manifest, multi-talented, powerful person. If you are in the spiritual world, you may in fact be someone, if this is spiritual, and a lot of it could be spiritual and psychic, you might be someone who's very, very accustomed to and comfortable in the material 3D world, and you're starting to understand, if you believed in your own spiritual ability, that you could be the Magician as opposed to just the Emperor. So some of you, it might be just believing in that and coming to understand that about yourself. But this is powerful. What you're heading towards is powerful. And I think it's a leadership role, a magical role, a manifestation role. I think you may help people with change, definitely. And you may ultimately help other people with self-belief, having gone through this. So let's get a little bit more information from the tarot. So firstly, we're going to sort of say, what does your future self see you as now, or where you are now in this journey? So this could be challenges, or it could be congratulations, or it could be a bit of both. But this is your future self sort of saying, between where you are now and where you can be, how are they viewing you now? Seven of Cups, dream. Six of Coins, support. The Hermit reversed, self-love. And the Four of Swords, organise. Okay. Firstly, I do think that many of you, as I said, this stewardship thing, I think that you are innately a very generous person. I think whenever you have success or money or power or whatever it is, you naturally look to how you can provide it and share it with others, which I think is one of the magical principles that people often miss when they're thinking about manifestation. It's like, what do I have and what can I get and blah, blah, blah. But I think you actually think about, what will I be able to share, which is part of the reason why you're able to do this. Your future self says, that's fantastic. It's an energy. It's an engine room energy, and you will get support because you give support. But it is saying that you still think a lot of this is a dream. You're not sure about it. I think we're going to get to a point where we're looking at the dream you. It's going to be very important. Pay attention to that for you, because there's a lot of information coming from your future self in your dream world, and your dreams are achievable. It's sort of like, it's interesting actually. If you have a look at the way this character is done, in the traditional Magician, the Magician does the as above, so below in the opposite direction. But nevertheless, it's a similar thing. I think there's a kind of a balance. Your dreams are balanced with the Magician that you could become. Because although it's not portrayed that way here, that is a classical way for the magician to be portrayed, and it's a very esoteric thing, the as above, so below. So I feel like there's really, your future self says this is not just a dream. And in your dream, you're almost this in your dream world already, and you kind of got to flip it and bring it into the real world. You will have the support that you need because you are a generous person. But you do need to come out of the liminal and into the real world with this. It's odd. It's like you have to bring the liminal out, actually, because you are in the material world. You are in the real world. But there's so much more that can be brought out. And some of this, it's interesting, organised as a principle for the Four of Swords. It's sort of saying, instead of kind of the traditional idea of Four of Swords of being kind of, again, in the background, it's saying you can't be in the background with the Hermit reversed. It's about organising your thoughts and your energies. And I feel like, it's just like I felt like this was from the sacral chakra, look at how this is coming, all the colours are coming from the sacral chakra. I think that there's something very creative in this. But whether it's creative in kind of like the painting or singing sense, or whether it's just creating yourself and creating, like the magician, bringing all those skills and all those colours together, bringing them into balance and organising them. Because that's the other thing, in a way, that the magician has to do. It has all of the skills. It's like how you actually use those then. And many people say that the magician then is fully actualized in temperance, where the alchemy has occurred. So it'll be interesting to see. It doesn't mean you have to have alchemy coming up here, or the temperance card coming up here. But I think there's something here about this is bringing your dream world into your conscious world and understanding the power of that, knowing that you will have the support because you're generous, and like caring about yourself enough and believing enough in yourself to bring this out. That's what your future self wants you to focus on. So then what potentials does your future self really want you to explore to get from here to there? Because as I say, your self-belief is not as strong as it should be. Queen of Wands, create. Yeah, there is something very creative, very fiery in this. Four of Coins, reverse, scarcity. Two of Wands, commitment. Okay, there is definitely something here about passion. The passion to take it from kind of a stewardship power thing into the magician. That's the transformation. It's like there's something creative or passionate. For some of you, it could be in some sort of romantic connection. I'm getting for some of you, I'm just going to say this sort of tantric sort of lovemaking, that kind of thing. Some of you, that might really work. But it's something quite specific, but I just sort of feel that looking at those cards. But beyond that, like the potential is what you can create and what you can self-actualize. The Queen of Wands is the self-actualized person, and that's the self-belief, really moving from this lack of self-belief into self-actualizing and committing to a vision, committing to what you could be, and not worrying about, with the Four of Coins, how this is going to change your material world. Because I do think that for many of you, you might already have kind of commitments that you're thinking, well, that's all fine and dandy, but I've got a mortgage to pay, or I've got, kids to raise, or whatever it is. It's saying you'll be okay. Commit to this. You're not going to disturb that. Don't worry about disturbing that. And in fact, your higher self is saying you don't have to do anything that you feel would risk that. Don't have to do that. But you do need to focus on all that you could be. So what blocks could occur for you in becoming your highest future self and becoming the magician? Pile 2. The Tower, resistance, okay. The King of Cups, trust, all right. And the Seven of Swords, reverse, self-sacrifice. Okay, all right, so you do resist the change. It's interesting. You are a creature of change, but if you resist the change, that can block you. And you're very powerful. So if you resist it, it doesn't happen. You stay in, and you could stay in that kind of emperor sort of phase, and it's not like that's unsuccessful, but to be all that you could be, you have to move past the resistance. You have to welcome the change. You have to say, I'm going to become a combination of death and the Tower. I'm going to become the creature that can shed its skin all the time and become new and evolve and know that I have the magic to do that. So, but you have some resistance to change, I think, because you have a very strong sense of responsibility. You also feel like you have some emotional trust. Like, I feel like you look after people, or people look to you for sort of like financial and emotional support. Like there's a sort of how can I go off and do this? I have responsibilities. And And you tell yourself with the Seven of Swords reversed that it's realistic. But what it really is it's kind of suppressing what you could be, a kind of a self-sacrifice, but you're not admitting to yourself that this is a self-sacrifice. And ultimately, that you can do more for people, you can carry this through. But it's like you sort of think, or for some of you, it may be that, in a past life, you hit the sort of magician point and you felt like you didn't use it responsibly. So there's a resistance because it caused a lot of, painful change as opposed to transformative change. But there's sort of something here where you're resisting your own power. So it's just because of a sense of responsibility. So let's get 2 last cards for like the kind of greatest hope and greatest message around your future self that your future self wants to say to you before we move into oracle cards. I mean, the final 2 tarot cards. 10 of Cups reversed. Oh, wow. Some of you are connected to another reading, I have to say. If not, there is some similar energy here. You belong to more than you think. That's what this is saying. You're where you think you belong emotionally and otherwise, and where you've got responsibilities, it's much bigger than that. It's much bigger than that. So in actual fact, you're denying not only yourself but others. So your future self wants you to understand that your soul tribe, your soul family, your connection and all that kind of thing is much bigger than you think, and very, very psychically driven, with the subconscious being the way the world is looking at it. I think it's also saying that in the transition, there's something here for some of you. This is quite specific, but for some of you, the transition that is necessary to do this will mean you probably have to leave some attachments, or at least transform them. Now, this doesn't mean, you walk out on a family or something like that. But for some of you, it might be sort of friendships you've had before, or a workplace you've been in, or a spiritual group. That's no longer, you've got to complete that, because the world is about completion so that you can actually become more of who you are. And you may even have become a leader in this group in some way. So one of the things to maybe think about is there someone within the group who could now become the leader? Could you pass the baton on so that you can actually move to what you're really meant to be? That's very specific, but I felt I had to say it. Okay, now I said the dreaming for you is very important. That's what we're going to do now. There are 2 decks I have that look at lucid dreaming symbols and synchronistic symbols. So this is kind of the you energy in the dream world. So it's like the who you are in the subconscious, in the dream world, as opposed to in the material world. But it also could be some synchronistic signs you see in the material world when this change process is opening its doors to you, so to speak. So firstly, we're going to look at a couple that are around elemental and natural energy. Then we're going to look at a couple that are around more personality and kind of worldly, civilized energy. So firstly, natural. Legumes, seeds, potential, marriage, prosperity, luck, manifesting. Manifesting, definitely. For some of you, this might be moving towards some new relationship. That is possible. If you felt that you were very much your own person and you just had to kind of, it's all about career and everything, it could be with marriage as a possibility. Or dreaming about marriage, dreaming about eating food, sharing of food, all of that kind of thing. It's meant to show that prosperity and luck is coming in. And then we also have, ooh, that's interesting, glacier, cold, aloof, ungrounded, blocked emotions. I think it is saying that you're blocking some of this. You're blocking your own power for whatever reason. So if you dream about these sort of things, or if you sort of see stuff, you see pictures of glaciers or ice or that kind of thing, or snowstorms, I think pay attention to that. What are you feeling or thinking at that time? Because it's your dream self trying to kind of make you realize where you're maybe not having all the potential of connectivity that you could have. And then let's have a look at how it plays out in the kind of, to say more personality or material world, not natural world, but kind of like civilized human world, but again, still in your dream state. Lips or mouth, okay. Expressing, ingesting. What are you ingesting? What are you taking in? Is it nourishing to you? Is it something that would help you grow and transform? Sensitivity, sensuality. There is for some of you something about a connection and allowing a connection to occur, but it's also about what you speak, I think. Like what you're saying and what other people are saying to you in dreams. Pay attention to that. And if you sort of see things, you know, see adverts for lipstick or things like that, pay attention to what you're thinking, because that could be a synchronistic energy for you. And singing bowl, sound, music, vibration, could be indicating, you know, that this is something to bring your dream self and energy out. You know, going to some sort of a healing session that uses a singing bowl, for instance, might be something that's very helpful. You might find that you actually see and bring things up from the dream state, from the subliminal you that way. You could dream about a singing bowl. You could see a singing bowl, you know, on YouTube or something like that. Again, there's a lot about love and open heart here. So for some of you, this is going to manifesting into a love relationship, whereas I say maybe you felt like you had too many responsibilities or something. You were too materially focused. It's not going to be for everybody, but that could be for some. Okay, so that's the dream you. What about what's going on right now using the Visions of Life Tarot, which is more like an oracle? What's going on right now in the material world that is important to this transition? Understanding it is important to this transition. Okay, delusion reversed. Romantic. Yeah, for some of you, there's a love issue around all of this, and compassion. All right. There's something where there's a dual thing operating here. Like on one level, this could be a great deal of clarity coming out of delusion, clarity about where something is romantic and where it's more compassionate. So you trying to work out and how to maybe not self-sacrifice and have a romantic life, but still have your compassion and your helping and your generosity to others. So for some of you, there's a clarity coming around all of that. And that then allows you to manifest properly, because you're no longer feeling like you've got to be only in this space. You can have love in your life. You can have what you want in your life. For others, with the delusion reversed, I think it's that you don't believe you can have all these things, or you don't believe you can be truly compassionate and go after what you want in love, or go after what you want more generally in life. There's some sort of block you've put on yourself because of this sense of responsibility. So it could work in both levels for you, or it might be one in particular, but it's something to think about, because it's something that you're doing in the material world at the moment that I think is blocking you getting to your full potential. Okay, so what we also want to have a look at is in the future and the current trajectory, your sort of divine masculine, divine feminine. And for you, that's particularly important because we've got the divine masculine showing up with the Emperor. Now, these could either be a warning about what could happen or what could get in the way of your future, or they could be a celebration of what this future is. So it depends on what Spirit wants to focus on. So firstly, looking at the divine masculine, these are archetype energies. Adventurer. I think this is what your future self wants you to be, more adventurous. Go out on a limb. You're going to be supported. You're going to be held. It's all fine, but you need to kind of really explore. And what about the divine feminine energy for you? Water. Receptive, accepting, unresisting. Yeah, go with the flow. Don't resist. You're resisting. You're so powerful. And because you're so powerful, the more you resist, like the more it blocks it, because you really are magical. So it's like you need to understand that, part two. So let's have a look, therefore, at some guides for you, some mythical creatures to guide you in their advice. Oh, wow, this one came up. Some of you have come to more than one, I have to say. Cerberus came up in another reading. Friendship. In life, have a friend that is like a mirror and shadow. Mirror doesn't lie and shadow never leaves. I think you will have some good friends around you that can really help you understand that. And I feel like there might even be a friend who can take up the baton if you are feeling you're responsible for things, so that you can actually have time to explore things. Cerberus is also a very strong protective energy. And Pegasus, elegance. Through meditation, you will be in love, and through love, you will be in meditation. Yeah, there's something about love for some of you, definitely. But also Pegasus is about freedom. So I think this is about freeing, allowing yourself to fly, allowing yourself to sort of like ascend to the celestial realms, allowing yourself to be the Magus. Like, do that. Like, don't doubt yourself. Don't feel grounded to the earth with the Emperor and all that kind of thing. Allow yourself to be more than that. Okay, so let's also have a look at what the stars can provide for you. Some guidance from the stars. Fifth house. Oh, look, for a lot of you, there is something about love in this. There is definitely something. I think for some of you, the transformation from just being this sort of like very successful, very honorable, very much a steward, very responsible person and being all that you could be, is going to come through love, because it's coming through over and over and over. You've got to allow yourself to do this. Don't be a workaholic to the point that you cut this off, because in fact there's something about the connection that's going to make it so much more. Now, if it isn't that, it's about creativity with the fifth house. Leo, shine. Allow yourself to shine. It's, allow it to be about you. Have pride in what you can do. And Pluto, big transformation, very much death, very scorpionic. This is a big transformation. Your capacity to transform is significant. Your power is significant, pole 2. Okay, so we're getting to the end of the reading. So one more thing before we get to the questions that I said that we'll do, and that is to look at a couple of archetypes for the future you. One which is around your career or vocation, and one that is around your relationships. So let's just get the last pieces of the puzzle on that, and then we'll do your questions. So around career, vocation, who you are in the world in that way. The influencer. There's the creativity. And there's the magician too. The magician is also Mercury, is communication. You go from being this very responsible person to someone who can influence. And I also think there's something about passing the baton. So I think it is like you can influence others to come through and take up things and so forth, and help other people change, help other people self-actualize. There's something really strongly there for you, pole 2. Okay, and then in terms of relationships, the healer. Oh, how beautiful. This is why it's very important if there's a romance thing here. Like if you want to think about stewardship and responsibility, I think that you may heal and help somebody that you fall in love with. But otherwise, you are going to heal people through this. You're going to help them transform. You're going to influence them to become all they could be. You're going to break the blocks for them that you had yourself, but you've got to believe in yourself to do it. Okay. So last but not least, as I say, we're just going to use the split decisions deck. So it has yes, no answers to anything and a little bit of why. So if you haven't worked out your questions yet, pause the video, work them out, then unpause, or one at a time, whatever works for you. But I'm now shuffling for the first question for pile 2. And the answer is no. Cracks in your facade, unsupported, drying up. So there's something... If it's about this, there's a particular pathway or something you're thinking about or asking about is not the right one. It's not going to be as authentic to you as this change is, or it's not going to take you towards the change. If it's about something else, it's saying no, it's not. This is not a good pathway for you. Okay, and then pile 2, your second question. The answer to your second question is yes. It's a good investment, getting paid, saving up. So there's one thing potentially that's not a good pathway, one that is very, very good, whether it's about you becoming your future self or whether it's about other things. If it's about relationships, one that's not really going to work, one that's actually really going to pay off for you. So I hope that you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Hanged Man, with perspective. And so I feel, as I think I probably said in the introduction, there's something about the future you that is highly flexible, highly adaptable, able to see more than one side to a story, multiple sides to a story, or at least the two main ones, able to balance that. I think it's an energy the future desperately needs. It's an energy that the current world desperately needs, to be honest. So the sooner you become your realised future self, I think the better, because we really need this energy. We have such a partisan, such a bifurcated world, the media, politically, culturally, spiritually. And yet, ultimately, and what I think you would know and what your flexibility here shows is that we are have far more in common than we have different. But we're almost being, I feel almost deliberately divided, which really disturbs me. So I'm really glad people like you exist, and I'm really glad that your future self wants you to get this dexterity and this balance and this, I feel like the kind of flow and the beautiful sort of proportionality and elegance and grace and so forth. There's a lot here about being the person who can bring the alternative viewpoint, the person who can bring the different ideas together, the person who sees things really differently. Some of you may be neurodiverse. You don't have to be, but there could be that kind of thing as well too, a very different perspective, very spiritual in a very material place, very material in a spiritual place, but like bringing that balance. So what we're going to do firstly with this is that we're going to look at where you are now, a little bit more about the future you and the pathway, just to get a helicopter view. Then we'll use the tarot further to get into this in more detail. So firstly, a little bit about where you are now, how your future self sees you now. King of Coins reversed, power. All right, interesting. Where you are going towards. A little bit more about this. Six of Wands, validation. So you can be very successful because of your capacity here. Going to be seen. And it's interesting, this card came up in one of the other ones, and it's the way it's portrayed is very, very interesting. There's actually a commonality in all of these readings now, I think. And the third card here is the engine room to get you from one place to the other. Page of Wands, explore. Okay, wow. All right, so what this is suggesting to me is that right now you are either in a position of power or you're in some sort of system that was very powerful, but its time is done. Now, this doesn't mean your power is done, but I feel like this is about your perspective brings in the new. So I don't think this is not about you losing power. You may, in fact, not have power at the moment in wherever you are. But if that's the case, you're in some sort of like workplace regime, political group, social group, cultural group, where its time is kind of done. So you either, because you are innately able to be flexible or because your future self guides you towards being flexible and doing something differently, you transition to being recognized as being even more, because look, this is like you now, and you've done quite well if that's the case, but look at all you could be. So there's a sort of a sense of like being seen by your future self as being able to be so much more than whatever this system is. So if you are in it, then you're going to go to something even better because of your capacity to be flexible and look at things differently. You would not look at the Tower card and recoil. A lot of people do, but you would not. You would go, okay, that's just telling me it's time for a change, mixing it up. You're flexible and able to look at things differently and move with things. But for some of you, you're in a system of power on some level, whether you are powerful, and it is going to go through, I think, quite a lot of kind of like the tower falling pains that leads to the growth pains of the new. So I feel like for some of you, you are very much in some sort of very visible position of power culturally, politically, socially, or will be. That's because as I said, your energy is very much needed. And the thing that gets you there is a kind of creative exploration with the Page of Wands. In fact, what I feel most when I look at this, and this doesn't mean it has to be this for you, but it's a really good example, is if you look at what's happening at the moment, I would say politically in the world, there are a lot of old regimes falling financially. The old systems are falling. Even how we define things like democracy is drastically changing. All of that kind of stuff is happening. And there's a lot of, I think, partisan rock throwing that's coming by design through the media, to be honest. But it is shifting, it is changing. And there are various people that say, and I think there's some truth to this, I think it was Andrew Breitbart said that politics is downstream of culture. And there are other people that say that it's the culture, it's how the culture shifts that's the really important thing for creating the new world. Not so much the sort of monetary system or the politics, the culture is the key part. I think you get that. And your kind of cultural and creative perspective and how you're going to be really seen and really good at that is you're being supported, because it's almost like, you could be sort of someone who, a bit like the sort of singers in the 60s that sort of like ushered in a lot of a different view about peace and war and all of those sort of things. It has a similar sort of energy that in one way or the other, something that you might do creatively or in, as I say, exploratively, you're going to be really recognised for that, and it brings a different perspective, and you're supported because of that. So as I say, it doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to be that you go off and you make the new cultural revolution in one form or another. It's not that, but it's something to do with your creativity, your explorative nature, and your capacity to see things from multiple perspectives that is going to make you successful and seen. But it's in a system or in a place or in some way where the old order can't really survive. So you're creating the new order, so to speak. So let's have a look with a little bit more detail. Firstly, about how does your future self see you at the moment? And this could be, things that they want you to change or think about. It could also be things they want to congratulate you on. But how does your future self, with regard to you reaching this highest possible timeline, how does your future self see you at the moment? Justice reversed. Two of Coins reversed. Yeah, many of you are in some sort of political, social, cultural system. The Emperor, where power is really important. And the Chariot reversed. Okay, all right. I do think if you come to the right reading, this of all the readings is one that's about culture, politics, money, systems of power in one form or another. And I think that either you are not in a just position, like you're in a corrupt kind of dying energy that you are being held too closely to, or actually being kept out of, like you're actually being kept out of the systems of power. There's something going on and it's not just. So it's almost as though it is the tension of that, since you have a message to bring out that creates the impetus to get to where you're recognised and your message is heard and your perspective is heard. But, you could literally have had an injustice done to you. You could be fearful of that. It could be, as I say, there is no justice to you being allowed into the table. Like for some of you, it might be in a workplace and you're ready to be at the C-suite, but you're just being shut out for some arbitrary reason. So it's something like that, but it's in a system it's not stable. And you don't see right now, your future self is like what options you really have. And it's partly because of your ability and your perspective. You can see the pros and cons of both. And so it's hard for you to just take a side. And that might be part of it as well too. But you are very powerful in yourself and you have a sense of stewardship. It's just that you don't feel where you are right now you can take action. So there's probably something where you have to move or shift. Or you may at first have to take a side, even if eventually that is to bring two parties together and actually then explore what is common. But it may be that the very thing that's shutting you out from doing anything is that you're forced into a situation where you take a side and it's not your natural thing to do. But when you do that, you can explore that and find the ways to connect and be back on track to doing something. But there's definitely a block operating, or you've got a very big injustice that you want to deal with. So let's see what potential for this future self, does your future self really want to show you with this transition and this change? Knight of Swords reversed. Queen of Wands reversed. Four of Swords reversed. Okay, all right. This is all about breaking free from boundaries in an old system. This is very clear. So the potential of all of this is at the moment you're in a very conservative, and I don't necessarily mean that politically. People think I mean that when I say that. I'm not saying that. Like where you sit politically is your business. I'm not making any judgments one way or the other about that. This is more just that it's an unchanging environment, or an environment that's resistant to change. It likes the status quo, but it's not like, you need to understand that's not going to last anyway. Therefore, it is against the new creative energy coming in. So you are being, so for the potential here is to turn that around, break away from the systems that are too conservative to allow you to be who you are. And it means, in a way, you have to come out into the world more. Four of Swords reversed. You can't just sort of sit and contemplate this. It's something you need to express in the world. And it's almost like you have to express chaos to some degree. So it has this feeling of, when you're caught in this situation where you don't really agree with either side, it's almost like if you play the part in a way of taking a side, like preparing for a debate you might do, then what you can be is the change from within. You go within, you get in, and then you actually create the chaos that allows this rigid thing to shift and become all it could be. ironically, for whatever this system is, you might be the savior of it by transforming it into having a broader and better and more balanced perspective. That's your highest possibility. But otherwise, it may be that you're just meant to be there and in this situation to find key people to make connections for something in the future. But definitely, it's like you got to get into something and speak your truth and sort of push it. Don't be shy about what you think. So, what blocks could occur when you're trying to do this? King of Cups reversed, Trust reversed, the Devil. Oh well, yeah, this is very much about power. And the Moon. All right. This is going to be very specific to what situation you're in, I've got to say. But one way I would read this is that it is suggesting you've got to change this from within and bring this different perspective and shake things up a bit. But it does say you have to be very careful about who you trust. It has to say that this is a very stuck energy, whatever it is that you're dealing with. It's almost addicted to its own power, its own structure, its own viewpoint. So a lot of this has to be subtle with the Moon, and a lot of it is almost more spiritual. So you are meant to sort of speak a truth, but it's like got to be done in a subtle way. And you've got to be careful who you trust, because there's a lot here where it's not a very honest environment. Now, it could be because it is just so manipulated by the media. If you were in, a group that was sort of supporting one side of a political program and it was the other side's evil. And quite frankly, if you look at the media on either side, particularly looking at things like American politics, I have to say there is that, like each side seems to think the other's evil. So if you're in a situation like that, I'm just giving it as an example, then that's a really difficult thing, because there's a kind of an addiction to the power and to the belief structure, and there's a lack of trust for anything new, and a lot of this is very subconscious. So you are going to succeed, but it has to be done subtly, and you have to be able to kind of go within and be very careful what you navigate. So of all the readings, this is the trickiest. But you do have the flexibility to do it, and you're the person for this. So let's see that sort of highest outcome, what the greatest hope that your future self has for you in this scenario, or what to watch out for to get the highest hope. Judgment reversed, awareness, surrender, 5 of Swords. Okay. The best outcome for you in this situation is that you can bring people to surrender to the fact that they've got out of alignment with what their calling is. It's helping people see that whatever they've rigidly been holding to, beliefs, their view of the other, whatever it might be, is actually stopping them from following it. And I see this a lot with the political side of things. I think both political sides that I see when I look at politics, whether it's in my own country or overseas, it seems that what calls to you to a political party seems to be your better angels. It's like, there's something about the philosophy or whatever and how you would think it is to be good and deal well with others and to be fair and all those sort of things, and whatever you believe about that. But then what happens is that the lesser angels, if I may, kind of make you demonize the other side so that it justifies it. And what that does is that you don't see the pitfalls in whatever it is that side does, or the inconsistencies or the hypocrisies that take one away from what you were really trying to do in the first place. That's why I'm saying people like you are really important, because it's like helping people be aware of what was it they really were called to in the first place, and reminding them of that, and making them surrender the concept that this is so much of a battle, that it's actually just much more about getting in touch with what their heart and their soul were saying to do in the first place. So there's just an example, but there's something like that going on. And this is why you're a good person for this. This is why the future requires it. And it is saying that if you can bring the balance into this, and you can make sure you don't get trapped in any of those kind of I'm right and might is, might is right, or right is might, all that kind of thing, then you are the one who can actually bring this about and bring things into better alignment. So, wow. Okay. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to have a look at the dream you. So the you in dreams in the liminal space, because that is kind of, in a sense, the creative pool through which who we are in the 3D comes through. And we're going to look at it through signs, symbols, synchronicities. So things you could see in dreams or things you could see synchronistically in the world. We're going to start with a couple that are around what is sort of the natural world, the elemental world, and then we're going to look at a couple that are more like the personality, material, in terms of civilized material world. Just to see what kind of signs, symbols, energies, messages might be coming from the you that exists in the liminal. So firstly, eagle, wow. Power, strength, autonomy, success. You are going to be successful. Eagle is very much around kind of that sense of sort of power, flight, perspective, when you can get high enough to have the perspective to see all the sort of like potential outcomes, consequential thinking, being able to see what's likely to come from things. If you dream about an eagle, if you see an eagle, I'd actually suggest to you having something like an eagle motif around you, or, you know, like an ornament with an eagle, because I think that it would remind you of that higher perspective. And, you know, you may well have an eagle as a very strong spirit guide, actually. And then we also have white, masculine energy. Well, we had that kind of the king or the emperor energy, thoughts, awareness, ideas. So yeah, a lot of this is about the perspective of ideas. This is in the realm of ideas. There's a creative way of bringing it about and a cultural way of bringing it about, but this is about getting a kind of purity of idea, a higher perspective and a purity of ideas. If you see white, if you dream of white, if you dream in black and white, sometimes this might be actually a very strong symbol to you, because black and white is maybe too divided. You know, like it's almost like if you lucid dream, if you find yourself in a black and white dream, see if you can bring some color in. I think all of this would be how you start to get that different perspective. Okay, let's have a look at the sort of more worldly and personality-based energy that could show up in dreams or could show up as synchronicities for you. Secret room, self-discovery, personality, memories, hidden resources. So there's something very secret about this energy. If you dream about a secret room, pay a lot of attention to what you see in that secret room. There could be kind of other symbols and other clues for you. I think it's also how you can keep your own secrets. And it's almost like in the material world, if you can have a place where that is, it's very important for you to be able to do that so that you can be in this environment. And chest, protects the heart, love, affection, strength, passion. Yeah, protect your own heart. Protect what matters to you. It's like, you know, the warrior sort of energy. I'm also getting, for some of you, if you get a chest cold, that could be a clearing energy you need to do, you know, like, and think about getting to that higher perspective and how you can clear the energy up. It could be literally something that tells you something's going on that you need to pay attention to. Okay, so that's the dream you. Let's have a look at what's happening in the 3D. Disappointment. Yeah, something you're not happy with where you are, and with good reason. Charm. Okay, good. You've got a lot of charm. And yeah, that flexibility and charm and being able to go in and kind of work from within. Motherhood. Okay. So for some, you know, this might be sort of balancing, like the perspective of balancing the material and power and all that kind of thing with a very big change to being a parent and all of those sort of energies, and how do you get that into balance? If so, I think that you're probably in like a very high pressure job or something like that. But I think otherwise it could be that you are kind of being the mother, you're nurturing a new way of being in. You know, if an older order is ending, it's almost like what follows is the Ace of Pentacles, the new life. So your charm can nurture the new thing in, but at the moment it's a disappointing energy that you're in. Okay, let's have a look for the future then, and have a look at a divine masculine and a divine feminine archetype for you. Now this could either be a warning, some other blocks that you need to be aware of in these archetypal energies that are either within you or within others around you, or it could be a kind of a high energy for what you become. So we'll just see what Spirit wants to talk about. So around divine masculine, addict. Okay, we got addiction. This is more of a warning. I think it is, you know, like make sure that you don't become addicted to the energy or the power or whatever, because your true power and your true recognition is in the flexibility and the perspective. But I do think you're dealing with that kind of energy, and it's in the material world. It's in the world of power. Like, don't underestimate how much certain people are addicted to the power that they have, the structure that they have, the toys that they think they have, all that kind of thing. Then in the divine feminine energy, grief, post-separation withdrawal. Okay, I think what this is saying, I think what Spirit's saying to you is that in this transition, you're going to be very successful if you sort of stick to the program. You're going to be able to bring most people with you, but some you're not going to be able to bring with you. And there could be some grief. If you've got that kind of motherhood, I'm looking after everybody. There's going to be some that are just not able to shift, not able to get the benefit of the new perspective. So I think it's just preparing you to know that that's the case so that you don't get too disappointed about it. Okay, so let's get you some stars to guide your way as well. Oh, actually, before we do that, I want to get you a couple of mythical creatures to support you and guide you. Angel, beautiful. Unity. Each of us are angels with only one wing, and we can only fly by embracing one another. Yeah, I think you can make the right connections. And this is very much that you'll have angelic support. So that's important, particularly when you're dealing with this sort of energy. And Phoenix, sacred space. Don't wait for someone to bring you flowers. Plant your own garden and decorate your own soul. Create the new thing. But the Phoenix rises. So whatever happens, you'll be fine. You're very protected in this. What you're doing is to rise anew with a more flexible, higher order energy. Winged creatures in general, actually, angels, Phoenix, eagle, they're very powerful in your spiritual team. And it's all about the perspective, getting up and seeing the bigger picture, I think. Okay, so then let's see what stars can guide you. Sagittarius, freedom, energy, creativity. And focus, I think, too, when we think of Sagittarius as the archer. The fifth house, something very creative about this, or it could bring love. It's interesting, that kind of energy has come through all of them as well. For some of you, love is going to be very important to this. And Capricorn, but yeah, for you, it's very much in the powers of the world. Very much in the powers of the world. There's something about that for you, definitely. Okay, so there's two last things I'm going to do. So I meant to mention, I don't know that I did. I meant to mention this actually in the introduction, but I meant to mention at the beginning. The last thing we're going to do is I'm going to use a yes-no deck for you to ask two questions that could be related to this, or it could be related to anything. So that's fine. So when I get to that, I'll sort of say pause if you need to work out your questions, but sort of just have that on notice in case you've already worked out a couple of questions for this, or you have a couple of burning questions at the moment. But before we get to that, I just want to look at the future you, both in terms of your vocation or work, an archetype for that, and then also in terms of relationship energy. So the future you in terms of your vocation and work. The mindful manager. Okay, yeah, you're meant to move into power and you're meant to sort of like bring people through, and yeah, be more mindful, be less about, you know, just the money and the profits or whatever, but like the whole picture, you know, and doing the right thing. And you're definitely meant to be a leader in one form or another. Okay, and then the sort of like love, romance, relationship energy archetype for the future you. The provider, representing the breadwinner or supportive partner. It doesn't mean you're the only one that would do that necessarily, but you do provide. There is something very material about this. You are going to be very successful, and you're very responsible. So that's beautiful. Okay, so now we're just going to close out the questions. So if you do need to pause the video before you know the questions, or one at a time, by all means do that. But right now I'm shuffling for pile 3 for the answer to their first yes/no question. And that answer is yes, it's a good investment, getting paid, saving up. Something that you're thinking about doing is a good idea to do. Okay, now the second question. I'm shuffling for the second question now, and the answer to pile 3's second yes/no question is yes, walk before you run, fresh outlook, baby steps. So whatever this is, you know, whatever the idea or thing you're talking about is a good thing to do, but just take it step by step. It doesn't have to be rushed. Okay, you've got some big stuff on your plate, I think, pile 3. But as I said right at the beginning, you're the sort of person we need, your future self in particular, but I think that it's within you. That's why this is your potential trajectory to your highest time frame, or timeline. I do hope that you've enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.